Hello. Let's see. All right. Hello, hello. Hypnosis for permanent weight loss. Today we have Katie Orson. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Yes.
Awesome. All the way from Virginia. I have a lot of people that have found us on the East Coast and the South a little bit. I'm actually headed to North Carolina for a wedding this coming weekend. Yes, Katie, thank you so much for being here. Katie is a graduate of the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss program. And as our listeners know, I know that it is incredibly important that you're not just always hearing from me in how this journey works. First of all, I probably can't describe it better than some people who have just been through it themselves. Yeah, and to make sure that you also hear some takes from other people from other walks of life who came across this program in different ways, maybe started out in a different place, had a different background, different life experience. And yeah, and what their experience with the program was and how it really made a difference for them. So, really appreciate your being willing to share your story with our audience today, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here and share a little bit about what I've been going through.
Yeah, awesome. Perfect. And yeah, I'll just let you kind of take it away from that. I know, yeah, you could just share with people maybe a little bit about like what your weight loss journey looked like or has been like, and yeah, where you were before you found us. That would be great.
Yeah, so my weight loss journey has, probably started when I was 8 or 9. Um, as for most people that struggle with their weight for a large part of their life, it does start when they're young.
Mhm.
Um, so that was the same for me. Going through high school, I was an athlete all through my, grade school years, all through high school. I played basketball, lacrosse, soccer, all those things. And when I want to say 15 or 16, I started to gain weight. I started having other issues with just periods and everything like that. So I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a very common thing. A lot of women struggle with it. I have the hormonal imbalance portion as well as some other physical symptoms, but the main part of the hormonal imbalance is it gives me insulin resistance. Um, so that makes it really difficult for me to lose weight, and really easy for me to gain weight, and very hard for me to eat a quote unquote normal diet as compared to like everyone else. So receiving that news was obviously a big shock. I was only 15 or 16, so I didn't really know what it meant or what that entailed. And I was still pretty healthy at that time. I had only just started to gain weight, so my doctor didn't really recommend that I need to do anything. But of course, they tried to put me on different medications to try and kind of balance the hormones, which only ended, 5 or 6 rotations of different medications, and I just ended up gaining weight, and I just wasn't stopping. Um, Fast forward, to the end of high school, I was gaining weight. I was decided to play lacrosse in college. It was Division 3, so it was not as intense as a Division 1 program, but still pretty tough. And obviously, gaining weight and being a college athlete is something that's not super easy, because there's just it's almost like an identity crisis, and there's a bit of a stigma around like, oh, you're an athlete, but you're kind of a bigger person. So that was a struggle with me continuing to gain weight through college. I ended up injuring myself my freshman year. At the very first practice, I fell and broke my wrist and had to get surgery the same day. So had only been at college for 2 weeks and did that. And that was a really hard time for me. I immediately fell into a depression. Just couldn't, I didn't really have any friends. My parents weren't there to help me. It was my right arm, so I really couldn't do anything. I um couldn't shower on my own, couldn't wash my hair, like writing, doing schoolwork. It was all super hard. So I was just kind of at a loss, just not feeling great about things. Of course,
Yes.
that I wasn't a
I was just gonna say for a second, like also sounds like yeah, your inability to do physical activity, which can really
exactly.
mess with the mind, you know? And I
Yes.
just want to pause you for a second because there's so many, things about your journey that I'm sure so many people can relate to. Is like, first of all,
Mhm.
it already started when you were 8 or 9. And how did that come about with it? With it, like, did someone point it out to you, or how was the weight loss the thing for you
Um,
then?
yeah, probably. It was probably just my parents, pointing out like, oh, you just want to make sure that, you stay at a healthy weight. You don't want to get unhealthy as, a child, or, things like that. Or just other kids, in the class. They wouldn't necessarily like bully me or make fun of me, but it was always like, I don't know, just the comments about being the bigger friend or being a bigger girl, or, just always, it's always things like that people don't necessarily, they might not mean to point it out, but they do. And that just makes you feel even worse about yourself if you are already feeling bad.
Definitely. Do you
So,
feel like you took on the thought of like, I'm different, like I'm different than other people?
oh yeah, definitely. I
Mhm.
mean, from a young age, in terms of like sports, I would always hear like, you need to use your size to your advantage type of thing. I mean, I've been 5'5", 5'6" since probably sixth grade, so it's not my height they're talking about. It's
Mhm.
it's my stature that is always like, oh, you're big, you need to use that to your advantage. I've been hearing that almost all my life, my sports life. So
So interesting. And when you would hear that, like, what would that be like for you?
um it's kind of mixed emotions, because on one hand you're like, oh, this person is like just thinking in terms of sports, like they're trying to help me. And then on the other hand, you're like, well, I don't really want to be known as like the big girl on the team, or like the big girl that is able to do this because she's big. Like, no one wants to be known by that.
100%. Yeah. So it sounds like there's kind of the conflicting things because it's like, on one hand, you know that they're just like trying to help or, state what's actually true. But on the other hand, there's this part of you that's like, I don't want to be different. And like those
Exactly.
back and forth thoughts. And then I would imagine, were you isolated like kind of during that time? Did you kind of go internal thinking that you were different than other people?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, definitely with like rec sports, just in throughout the neighborhood and stuff, there were definitely people that were more similar to me. Like, not everyone was like super athletic or really good at sports. But then obviously as I got into high school and like got more specialized in my sport, people like me, or that looked like me, or I felt were similar to me, were much harder to come by.
Mm,
Or people that were like me played a certain position. Like, for example, goalie is a popular position in women's lacrosse, for someone who has a bit of a larger
mhm.
body, especially like being tall. That's helpful just because you are covering, more area in the goal. Um, that's just like a stereotype that like the bigger girls on the team are going to be goalies. So I used to get asked a lot if I was a goalie and all that kind of stuff. Be like, no, I'm a
Mm,
field player. Like, so.
got it. Yeah, really interesting because, I think about the Olympics and I'm fascinated by all the different types of bodies for each of the different
Mhm.
sports, and it's just like
Yes.
each of them has this stature that's why they're fantastic. They're using their body to their advantage. But then, especially as, a girl that's trying to grow up in society as well, that wants
Mhm.
to fit in and in American culture of, skinny is better than, not skinny. yeah, that could just be a really challenging thing. And then on top of that, you then were diagnosed with, remind me what it's called again?
It's
The
called polycystic
polycystic
ovarian syndrome.
ovarian syndrome.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You know, and so I'm curious about that. And I also noticed something that I think is important for everybody, because I heard it in the way that you were communicating on, I was still healthy at the time that I got diagnosed. It was before I gained weight. And it just points to the fact that our culture has 100% associated health with
Mhm.
weight being low. When in
Mhm.
fact, it's like you could be the healthiest woman on the planet right now at exactly your size, and someone could be super slender and be dying inside with
Mhm.
like how unhealthy, internally that a person is. So, you know,
Yeah.
just pointing out that, that's what our culture has, and then there's the research study of health at every size that prove that that's not true. That
Mhm.
just a bigger stature person or, whatever does not necessarily mean less healthy than someone who's skinnier. So,
Mhm.
okay, so there you are. You got the diagnosis. You were 15 years old. You were already grappling with your body being bigger and you being different and playing
Mhm.
lacrosse and all of that kind of stuff. And so then you had, was it injections, did you say?
Yeah, I tried all sorts of things. I tried shots and pills and everything.
And this
That
was for the polycystic ovarian, or for it was for weight loss?
um at first it was just for the polycystic, to try and treat that and regulate. I was just having a lot of pain on my cycle and things like that, so they were trying to help me manage that because it was, so bad I was having to miss school for like, extended, couple days at a time, which is not good when you have to do
Mhm.
that every month type of thing. And then I did actually do a specific weight loss, like a, I'm trying to think, it was called like Medi weight loss or something, where they basically they just monitor your weight and they take your BMI. Um, they can give you like B12 injections. It's supposed to be like a scientific oriented thing to make sure that your body is still remaining healthy while you're trying to lose weight. And they kind of, there's like a dietitian that gives you like specific things to eat and that type of thing. But I found with that, yes, I did lose weight, but number one, I gained it back right away. I tried to lose weight during the summer in between school years for lacrosse, and then as soon as I got back to school and I wasn't eating exactly the same thing that they told me to eat, I gained it right back, even though I was exercising as a college athlete. um, and I also found that my mind turned it into some like kind of like a game, almost like every week, like how many pounds can I lose this week, or like how much can I do this week. And I wasn't eating enough, I was eating the bare minimum, or like lying about what I was eating so that I could, look like I was following the thing and losing weight, which obviously is not healthy either. And again, once you start eating normally, you just gain it all
Right
back
back.
anyway. So
100%. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember when I was, doing my super strict food program thing, when I was in isolation in my little apartment by myself all day working from home, like I could stick to that just fine. But then as soon as there was a social event or I went traveling or something like that, it was like it all came back, and it was like a hurricane when it came back, because it was like I've been so, trying so hard to make sure that I don't go out of it, then all of a sudden there's this backlash of being like, okay, we're out of that, situation. So let's just eat all the things. And then I would gain more weight back, than I even had prior to my being obsessed, like you're talking about, of trying to lose weight and all the other things. Got
Hmm.
it. Okay. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. And then, yeah. So then so that was this. So how long did that go on for, from when you were 15 and
Oh,
then
I
trying to lose?
mean, that took, man, that until I was like probably 19 or 20. until, and I'm almost 23 now. So, it took a lot more time to figure it out than I has been not for the other side of it, just to figure out the right medication that helps with pain and also, doesn't make me gain weight for no reason, because that's a big thing with hormonal, trying to control it with polycystic, is the medication can make you gain weight too. So yeah, that was an ongoing process. Every couple of months, they would put me on a new medication. I'd have to get used to it. If it didn't work, it caused a lot of pain, a lot of bleeding. It was just a really hard cycle to go through.
100%. Absolutely. And let me ask you this. So, as you know, with hypnosis for permanent weight loss, we know that belief is everything, right? So, as you were going through that and as you're being given medications that you knew could cause weight gain, or that this, polycystic ovarian syndrome could cause weight gain, do you think that that impacted the way that you ate? Like, did you start eating more because of that diagnosis?
No, I don't think so. Um, it was one of those things where, like, I started to, when I first was diagnosed, and the following years after that, it was one of those things where I really wasn't changing how I was eating or exercising. In fact, I was exercising more because I was being, like, becoming more specialized in my sport and getting ready to go to college, and I was doing a lot of training. Um, and I was still gaining weight. And so that's kind of what triggered the, like, why am I doing all these things and my body is still working against me type of thing.
Mm, 100%. Yeah. So it sounds like you felt like your body was kind of like betraying you almost.
Yeah, and even, like, my dad would say it all the time, like, how is it possible that you're exercising 6 times a week and, like, you're still gaining weight? And he's like, you can't be eating that much. Like, I'm eating I'm exactly like I, like, was before. I didn't really make any changes.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, you got to go see a doctor, there's something wrong. I'm like, I've already been, trying to figure out stuff for years, and there's not really much research on polycystic ovarian syndrome. And really, their, like, go-to thing that they like to give people, and anyone listening who has polycystic, they know that doctors love to just give you metformin. And
Hmm.
because that's pretty much all there is right now in terms of, like, research for that. And metformin is something that people with type 2 diabetes, who also have insulin resistance, that's something that they take. And they can also give it to people with PCOS. And it's supposed to just help regulate the insulin levels, which supposedly is supposed to help with the weight regulation ultimately. But I never really had any luck with it. I know a lot of other women never really saw the results that they were hoping for from it either. So, it's one of those things where it's like, other than that, you can have your birth control that they prescribed you with the correct hormones, and that's pretty much all you can do. And you don't really know what's going on with your body, or how to fix it, except for, like, don't eat carbs, because insulin resistance hates carbs and everything like that.
Hmm. 100%. Absolutely. And so, because I can hear that you were extremely committed to your health and like finding the answers and doing everything that you could and all of that kind of stuff. As you were going through that, what was your mental and emotional world like?
I definitely was very scared,
Mm.
because they were like, because of the insulin resistance, you're pre-diabetic, which puts you at risk for a bunch of other things, heart disease, all these other things. Like, ultimately, like, you could live a shorter life, and just, like, all these things were being thrown at me that I didn't really understand, and I didn't really know how to fix it, because it's just something that's happening in my body. And
Mhm.
I don't know, it was just kind of a scary thing to hear. And then I did have, like, a couple of bad um times going to the doctor, like, through my years when I was gaining weight. um I went to the one time I went to the doctor for a physical, and she just was not nice to me at all about my weight. I told her about the polycystic, and she's like, you can't make excuses for yourself. Like, people try to make that excuse all the time. You're just eating too much. Like, you just need to stop eating so much. And I came out of the room crying, and my mom immediately was like, "What happened?" And I was like, she did not help me. Like, she did not
Mm,
help me at all.
mm,
So I had a few experiences like that where healthcare professionals just did not, you know, did not help me in the way that I needed,
mm.
which also kind of makes you more scared because you're like, there's this thing happening with me. Um, it's making me gain weight. I'm gaining weight. Doctors are mad at me because I'm gaining weight. Like, it's a weird cycle to be in.
Right. Cause then it's like, then nobody's trusting me that what I'm saying is accurate, or like that I'm doing the best I can to take care of myself, that I'm really not eating that
Exactly.
much. And then it's like, if I don't have anybody on my side who's got my back, then how can I get past this?
Hmm. Exactly.
Absolutely, 100%. And I could also relate to, when I was in high school, I'd be going to the gym every day, and I would be, eating, salads and stuff, and really just not eating that much at all. And, I had a really good friend, and he would watch me do it all the time. He'd be like, I don't understand, like, why you still aren't like super fit. He was just like, you do all the right things. So what are your thoughts about that, Katie? Like, do you think that some people have like a bigger body than other people, or like, what do you think that's about? Obviously your situation, probably the polycystic ovarian is the reason, but just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way, especially like, again, going back to being on um, a sports team in college and spending
Mm,
a lot of time with girls. Obviously, like, we're all doing the same thing. Like, we're all going to practices, lifting, we're all doing the same exercise. And here they are, they're so skinny, and they're, just eating like three plates at the dining hall. They got two servings of ice cream, and I'm just like over on the side trying to, like, keep my portion size down. And it's just like, definitely the metabolism differs,
mm,
and it's really hard. It was hard for me because my roommates were all, um I would say they just had naturally fast metabolisms. They were able to, um pretty much eat what they wanted and still, not really gain weight, and they were always just in really good shape. So that was really hard for me because I would, in my mind, I was like, oh, like, everyone's enjoying like ice cream tonight, and we have practice in the morning, and like, I would know that I would be running slower because my body would still be trying to, like, go through and digest it, and they'd be running fast, and coach would make a comment like, oh, you're looking a little slow today, and I knew it was because of certain things that I would eat that would still be with me the next day. So.
uh, I absolutely understand what you're saying. I was at basketball camp when I was in seventh grade, and I came back larger than when I left, because I was, they had it was a college university
Mm.
buffet, that they had. And it was just like allowing it, like I was eating what everybody else was eating,
Hmm.
and then like definitely gained weight in the 7 days that I was there or whatever. And people, like, I was running around the same amount that everybody else was, and like doing all the things, but my body just always was, I was always bigger than my sisters. And I think that it's sad. I love that you have the example of when you were playing lacrosse, and that you could see that all the girls just had different things going on than you. Like, you were all doing the same kind of thing, but different body shapes. And we've all seen like the things where it'll show like, 150 pounds on each body, and how different it can look.
Hmm.
So there's just, I really believe the same thing, that there's just so much different. And I also think that when you are supposed to be like a certain weight, when you find that like stabilization, and like some people like to be fuller, some people do better with some foods and not the other ones, like, but we're trying to do this one size fits all thing. but that when we're not at that place of, you know, peace and like our body is the way that it is, and like we can trust ourselves that we're not like binging or way overdoing it. Like the binging and way overdo it is because we're making ourselves wrong for being a different body shape or size than we're supposed to be. And then
Yes.
because of all of that stress, then it's like we're eating more because it's just like we're putting ourselves through the ringer. And, you know, until we actually allow ourselves to be in that space, it's like the mind doesn't quiet down. It's like we
Hmm.
don't have peace. We can't even actually listen to ourselves or like what our body actually wants, and let go of all the like comparison and judgments and all of the negative thinking and good, bad, right, and wrong stuff. Which brings us to, you know, when you found us and when you enrolled into the hypnosis for permanent weight loss, because obviously what we do is get people to a place where they can feel at peace and stable mentally and emotionally, and let go of those triggers around food and pay attention to the way that your body feels. So I'm curious, like, how did you know that this was the right program for you? And what did you really learn from being there?
Yeah. So, um, I want to go back a little bit before just to kind of lead into it. But basically, I graduated from college May 2020. So it's been, a year and a half, I guess, at this point. And after I graduated, it was, I was playing a sport. It was COVID times were strange. And so we had to cut our season early. And I had to go home and finish out my senior year at home, which was just a very strange thing to happen. Again, I was already depressed from just, the emotions of being a college athlete, trying to deal with that, trying to deal with school, and then having everything get cut abruptly short was definitely really hard. And then going from having all that physical activity all the time, which definitely is going to help your body, to having nothing, having no structure in my life.
Mhm.
That hit me really hard. And I got in a very, very bad place. Um, I was in a relationship for 8 or 9 months, in a really bad, I don't want to say a really bad relationship, but it definitely was not good. For my mental health, the way that I was being treated, it was really hard for me to get out of that because I kind of was trying to lean on that person. And so I got out of that relationship and I thought things were starting to get better. And that was at the beginning of this year of 2021. Um, and then I just kept falling back into the same old. I was binging all the time, trying to, suppress the feelings, didn't know what to do. Things were getting really bad. Suicidal thoughts were coming up, things like that. It was just, I was a mess.
Mhm.
And I want to say it was my aunt came over one time, and around that, it was the beginning of this year, and she was like, "Yeah, I just started doing hypnosis for weight loss." And I was like, "That's a thing? Like, I've never even heard of that." And I was like, "It kind of sounds fake." She's like, "Yeah, I know, but she's a nurse too, and it was one of her patients that had cancer and healed, and he had started his own program for helping people to quote unquote heal,
Mhm.
in whatever ways they needed. And the case for my aunt, she wanted to lose weight. So she had done it and she's like, "It's working great for me. Like, I don't crave these things that he's putting in the hypnosis and all this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty interesting." Um, I wasn't too sold on it. I didn't really know, like, especially because it was a man running the program. And I was like, I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to relate to them that much just because we're not going to have a lot of the same problems. And after that, I decided to I was going to listen to some podcasts I was trying to get my life back on track, trying to get some motivation in me, just something. And all I did was search weight loss on the Apple podcast thing. And hypnosis for permanent weight loss was the first thing that came up. And I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting that I just learned about this 2 days ago. And then this is popping up. So I was like, I might as well listen to it. I listened to, I want to say maybe the first 3 episodes. And I just connected so much to with what you have been through. Um, and I just was like, I feel like this person can help me.
Mm,
And then you started to say like I can get in contact with you and maybe set up an appointment. And I was like, am just feeling like this is something that I need at least need to try and pursue. And I did. I think I tried to set up appointment with you right away. We got on the phone and you explained everything to me, and I think right away I was like, yeah, I think this is what I need to do right now.
mhm.
So
100%. Absolutely. And thank you for sharing the really challenging year that it sounds like you really had, from suicidal thoughts and the boyfriend. Was it like verbal kind of abuse or like, I mean,
um it was just a lot of emotional manipulation, gaslighting,
mm,
lying, cheating, all that kind of stuff. It was just, and it was my very first serious relationship.
mm,
Um, and so it was a lot to have all bundled into one. And of course, I had kind of latched on to him because I was in such a bad place on my own and I just needed somebody for comfort. And so it was even harder to break it off with him. It was I'm so glad I did it. It was the best thing I ever did to just, you know, get out of there for my mental health. But again, that kind of breaking it off was sent me into even more of a downward spiral because I had finished college. All my friends didn't live near me anymore. I was living with my parents. It was COVID. You couldn't do anything. I felt so isolated, felt like I didn't have anyone.
mm,
And the few like friends that I had from this relationship, I now had cut myself off from them because we had gone our separate ways. So it was just like things kept getting worse.
mm, 100%. Absolutely. Yep. And, you also mentioned the structure thing as well, to not have like the structure of college. Like human beings, for the most part, do better when there is structure. So it's like mental and emotional stuff can just go so haywire. And then with relationships, we often will stick with a relationship that is kind of a mirror. Like if we already think negative things about ourselves, like we'll stay with someone who's saying negative or projecting negative things about us because there's a part of us that's like, I want to hear that what my negative part of myself is true, and it's like this whole thing. And you're right. Sometimes, things do have to get worse in order to get back on
Mhm.
track. And I can't tell you how many people that have done the hypnosis for permanent weight loss program, like you're talking about, like it just happened mysteriously, kind of the way that you're talking about. Your aunt mentions it, then you look up the thing, it pops right there. You immediately resonate with the message. And like every single coach that I've ever hired, it's been some kind of like quasi, like, how did this end up here? But like something in my body just always knows that like this connection is the one that is for me, and I do it. So I'm just so glad that, you were given that and let it be, a testament of the fact that maybe we can trust that the universe has our back, even in the hardest, worst, lowest points of our lives at times. So thank you again for sharing that. I know that there's a lot of people that, end up here that come from that kind of spiraling kind of down place. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So then you signed up, and then yeah, tell us about your experience and yeah, how it went for you.
Yeah, so I signed up, and I think I got started with my first session a couple days later, I want to say. It I was overwhelmed with the amount of information at first. There's always your mind tries to make you second guess yourself, like, oh, can I really do this? Like, this is a lot
Mhm.
of stuff, or is this actually going to help me? And um, I just would try and take it day by day or session by session. And you guys, the coaches, just made it super easy to like be happy for yourself that you just showed up to something.
Mm,
Because I know a lot of people struggle with this. not necessarily a perfectionist, but a lot of times things just aren't good enough for me, or like I feel like I'm not doing enough. And a lot of times that's where my eating habits were coming from, was I was trying to eat healthy and I was eating healthy for, a couple days at a time. And then I would like go off track and eat like one thing that, was bad,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden I was like off the rails and couldn't stop eating everything, because I was like, oh well, I just messed up my perfect streak, so like what's the point of even trying to eat healthy anymore? So I had a lot of stuff like that in my life, with school and things like that, where I was like, well, if I'm not going to be perfect, then I just am not going to do it, or I'm going to do it half-ass, like that type of thing.
Mhm. Yep, it's like that F it mentality, just all or nothing. I used to do the
Yeah,
same thing. Like I'd mess up one little thing and it's like I'm off to the races. Where's all the
yeah,
sugar? Where's all the candy? Like give it all to me because I just messed that up.
exactly.
Mhm.
um and so I was just that a lot of times, when I was really struggling with the emotions of just everything or trying to just avoid them, binging was my go-to, of just eating a bunch of food at one time, and um buying like way too much for myself and being like, yeah, like I'm hungry enough to eat all of this, and then just like eating and eating and eating, and even when I was full and like so uncomfortable, being like, this makes me feel better, and not really realizing, why I was doing that.
Mhm.
Which is definitely one of the things that the program helped me with. But I think back to what I was saying before, about just how to every session, like I was like, okay, yeah, I signed up for this program, like, and I'm here for the session. Like, that's the expectation. That's what I'm going to do. But then all of you coaches were like, thank yourself for showing up today. Thank yourself for being there for you. And I was like, I've never really looked at it that way, from the positive standpoint of like, I'm doing something to try and help myself. And I've already got this like negative outlook of, am I going to do it well enough, or am I going to do it perfect, versus like I'm actually taking steps.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter if I do it 100% or I make huge strides in one day. Like that's not the point. The point is I'm doing something.
Mhm.
And it definitely took me a while to shift that mindset. But once, I mean, when you guys are saying it all the time, it's easier to be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this for myself, and that's enough for right now. Like if I can't do anything else but this one thing, well, that's fine. Like it's something, you
Oh
know?
my gosh, I love that you're saying that. Yep, it's just like it's as you know, but for the people who are watching that may not know yet, whatever that mental chatter is that takes us down from being able to be successful in following that, food program the way that we want to, or, anything that we want to do in life is the same thing that always comes up, in the program. And it's like, so we need to use whatever comes up. And it is such a normal experience. When I just went away this summer for my NLP and hypnosis training, I I was so glad because it had been a while since I'd experienced what our clients experience when they start, right? Of like, can I do this? Like, this is a mistake. I wasted my money. I shouldn't be here. Maybe I should have a conversation and tell them I should get out of it. Right. Like all of that was there. And I was just witnessing it. I was like, yep, this is, and it's proven that as we're changing our mindset, that we try to get out of it because our minds are wanting to just stay safe in our comfort zone, not have to, do things that we're not normally used to doing. And
Mhm.
so, and that's like the exact thing to just support us in overcoming. So it sounds like you really, yeah. And I remember having that same change for myself of instead of like, well, I have to do this right now because I'm in a dire situation and I have a problem and please help me and fix me, which, yes, those are the emotions that drove us to say yes in the first place. But realizing that when we get in here, it's like we need to start to recarve your mindset into saying, I'm a badass. Like I always get my needs met. Yes, I'm, got way off whatever, but I knew enough to get myself here and to do whatever it takes for me to start this thing. And then who we become for ourselves. And you can let us know what it was like for you. But like my confidence raised a lot of just being like, oh, like, no, I am doing a great job. Like I'm not failing. It was like if I was failing, like if I was really like on the edge of failing, like I wouldn't be investing in myself at this level and like getting support every day. So then it just is like I like leap to the quantum level to being like, no, I'm really doing a great job. And yeah, and learning how to be kind to myself. Was it like that for you? Like, did it change the way that
Yeah,
you perceived yourself?
definitely. Because, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of people, but asking for help or seeking support was not something that I did
Mm-hmm.
before. It was a very new thing to me to be like, I'm joining this. It's almost like you're like trying to pay for friends or something. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pay for these people to support me. And I'm like, it seems kind of funny, but um that, I mean, having the support from other people going through the same thing as you, I never realized how much of a difference that can make, to just know you're not alone, and that a lot of the things that you're going through, someone is going through at the same time, or they've already gone through. And I know a benefit for me, because I was one of the younger people in the program, was that most of the things I'm going through at my current time in my life, the other women in the program had already gone through. And, they could offer advice about, like, being a young adult and relationships, and, trying to date and find the person and all that stuff. They could offer a lot of advice to me about, and even related to food and diet and weight, and just ways that I had never thought of before or even talked to anyone about before. So,
Absolutely. You can't know what you don't know. And I was like you, where I was your age when I was in my first coaching program, and it was all women that were significantly older than me, 20, 30 years older than me. And I had a lot of shame and like embarrassment because I was like, oh my God, I'm 23 and I haven't figured like, I haven't, like, I'm in this relationship, but I don't know that I would necessarily want to marry this person. Like, I can't tell them that because then I'm going to look like a failure. And they were like, I got divorced like 5 years ago. Like, I still don't have my relationship world figured out. Like, it just cleared so
yeah.
much shame of being like, hey, age actually doesn't matter. Every single human being is on their own consciousness path. We have a woman in the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss program now, very successful, software engineer at her job. And, but was like, I'm embarrassed. Like, I don't want to talk about food. Like, it's so embarrassing that this is something that really gets in my way. But it's like, there's no shame. Like, everybody goes through this stuff at different times. And like, there are always people who are struggling with the same thing at the same time as you. And you're right, to have other people just in your vortex of just, yeah, I get it. Like, I've been there. Here's what I did. Or, right, I'm going through the same thing. It's like so healing,
Mhm.
so amazingly healing. Awesome. I love that you shared that. Yeah. And while you're in the program, I remember, I think that's when you broke up with your boyfriend, was while you were in the program. Is that right?
Yeah, that was actually a different relationship.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I had, that was part of the whole emotion thing. I was trying to latch on to somebody. So that was actually someone new. Um, but I had then gone through another breakup. So
Mhm.
it was a lot of stuff at once for me. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's like, we always see it happen where when people sign up, like different life, changes will happen because it's like, now that you're putting yourself first, it's like everything kind of reorganizes itself. And the
Mhm.
things that don't belong with this new version of you where you're actually valuing yourself kind of falls away. And luckily, and then our subconscious also knows that it's like, hey, we're safe enough now because now at least we have these other social system of support people that,
Mhm.
when this relationship that I know is not in line with me falls away, like, I'm going to be okay. Like, there's safety here. And so let's use it to our advantage to move faster. Which then brings me to the next thing that I remember is how you actually went from doing the medical technology and then enrolling yourself into nursing school, which I understand you just finished your first clinical. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it was one of those things where I was listening to one of your podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was the one about just money in general and not letting the financial part of things like stop you from doing what you want to do. Especially with in terms of like the coaching and everything, like not letting the financial part stop you if that is what you think is going to help you. And I had been waiting to go to nursing school. I was saving up money for a year. And I just decided after listening to that podcast, I was like, you know what? I know I want to go to nursing school. I've been wanting to go to nursing school for years. Um, and like, I'm going to have to spend the money on it, whether or not I do it now or save up and do it later. So I might as well just do it and go get it done. And then I'll be, one step closer to what I want my end goal to be for my career. And um yeah, so I applied like that week. It was the deadline was at the end of that week, and I applied and I got everything in on time and I got accepted, and everything just happened really fast. And
Uh-huh.
I started class 3 weeks ago. um I'm already full blown into classes and doing clinicals at the hospital and just feeling like I'm in the right place. And it was definitely good because I had the program leading up to the transition to school,
Mm-hmm.
going back to school. Um, and I kind of got myself in a better headspace before tackling this. I got a lot of my issues with food under control after, talks with Dana and stuff like that, understanding why some of these emotions are driving me to eat and how I can, stop them or help them or kind of make myself focus on something else versus, food when I'm feeling that way. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Congratulations. And like so inspiring. It's just amazing how, so many people put things off of like someday, one day, like I'll save up my money and then I'll do that thing or whatever. And I love how smart you are. Like, I hope that, like, you're probably like me. I don't know, where people are like, you're so mature for your age. Like, people
Yeah.
used to say that to me my entire life. Like, you definitely are, like, whatever. And, it's like all we need is just somebody to just like say that. You heard that podcast that I was saying of just like, don't let it get in the way. Like, if you know you want something, like, go after it, and like everything starts. And like, I really see that the reason why people put on a lot of weight and go to some of these dark places is because they're putting life off, because they're buying into these beliefs that I can't start now. I can't do this stuff now, or like I'll do it when, and all these conditions. But it's like, by not starting, like, first of all, we might be getting ourselves into more debt waiting. And then also like the mental chatter of not being stimulated, intellectually, maybe as you're yourself in nursing school, could lead to, all the bad feelings, depression, suicidal thoughts. Like, we need to be like in action and acting on what we know is what we want to do now, today,
Mhm.
which is why my podcast, I saw one of my reviews, my podcast was like, this podcast is just selling the whole time. And it's like, no, it's trying to get you into action now because of everybody putting their life off to someday, one day, so I love that you just picked it up and you got that ball rolling. And
Yeah.
here you are today, right after your first clinical, doing the first podcast. And I
Yep.
understand you've lost 15 pounds since we last talked. So tell us about that. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about that.
Yeah. So it's actually, I think, almost closer to 20 at this point.
Wow.
Um, I towards the end of my program, I was kind of doing some experimenting with like, trying to figure out which foods give me stomach issues, digestive issues, which foods make me feel good, which that kind of
Yeah.
thing, and
Mhm.
trying to not think about whether the food is good or bad. But also trying to take into account that I do have a health condition that requires, some sort of guidance on what I should be eating, um, but not letting that kind of overtake everything that I want to eat.
Yes.
So it was a lot of like going back and forth with like eating things that made me feel good, didn't make me super bloated, didn't, give me digestive issues, stuff like that. And then there definitely were times during that where I was like, I don't like all these foods that I think I should be eating, and then just binging.
Mm.
And then after the binge, I'd be like, well, that food didn't make me feel good either. And I liked, like, it tasted good, but like, I'm not satisfied because now I'm in pain, and, and it just wasn't like the experience that I wanted. And I just started thinking more about like what type of experience I wanted from the food,
Mm.
and like at certain times, like what I wanted out of each meal.
Mhm.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Is it still?
Yep, we just lost your video, but I can still hear you. Okay, there we go. You got it?
Am I there? Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
That's okay. No worries.
um
I love what you're saying. You're talking about really focusing on like what experience do I want to have with food. And when we, like I'm saying with the same thing of when you start the program of like how things need to reorganize itself. It's like you come in here, you get with all these different ideas and like taking out all these labels and judgments about good and bad food and blah, blah. And you have the added thing of knowing about your PCOS and how, all that kind of stuff. And so 100%, like I had to do the same thing of going into experimentation phase of like, okay, well, I know the science behind like dairy and gluten, but like,
mhm.
how's my experience with dairy and gluten, and then realizing like, oh, okay, like I actually still don't feel that good with it. So then like, but then trying to keep it all away would sometimes lead to an entire binge, like you're talking about. It's like, well, that didn't work either. So it can be messy at first until you actually find. And then I did
Yes.
the same thing of being like, well, what do I want my experience with food to be like? So what did you decide or land on for that?
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting because when I was working before I started school, I had a lot more time to be focusing on food, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I've started school, food has like gone to the back burner, which has definitely helped my kind of mental outlook on it. Um, but it's kind of like I don't where when I was binging, I felt like I needed to, I don't know, have all the sugar and be like, I need to like thoroughly enjoy this meal, and or else it's like wasted.
Mm,
Like, if it's not something I really like, or if like I'm not going all out, then like it's just pointless.
mm-hmm.
Um and then on the other hand, on the other side of it, it's like, well, I'm only eating this salad because I haven't had any vegetables today, and that's something I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like now it's almost like a meal to meal thing. So like for me, I know my breakfast and lunch is something that's going to, keep me full, um, not make my stomach hurt, not make me jittery, stuff like that. Um, but when I have dinner with my parents, like I might, have a little, whatever the carb is for that dinner. Like I'm not continuously saying like, oh, I can't have the carbs, or like if it's something that I know is going to make my stomach upset, like, a certain type of potato or something, like I'll just make a substitution for something that I know that I like, that's not going to, upset my stomach or stuff like that. And it's not
Yeah.
it's not so much trying to focus on like it's a diet
Hmm.
so much as like I don't know, I'm still enjoying and eating the foods that I like, and I'm deciding what I want to eat and what I don't want to eat,
Oh
which
my
is, as
gosh.
you always said, that's what gives you the power, is you're
Yes.
deciding.
Yes. Woo! You are saying everything that is like a super masterful hypnosis for permanent weight loss, like for life graduate would say after. And that is thrilling because it's exactly right. It's like when you make that empowered choice, because, and what I'm hearing is you're making choices based on how do I want to feel? And you're like, well, I
Mhm,
need this breakfast to fill me up, right? I need this lunch to fill me up, but I also definitely don't want to have pain while I'm going throughout my day, but I want to enjoy the meal. And then you make an empowered choice based on those
mhm,
factors. And then when you get home, it's like, well, I don't have anything else going on after. I'm just going to bed. So, like, if I have a little something that might make me a little bit more full or a little bit more tired, like, okay. And like, as long as it's not bringing me pain, like, I'm good with that. So, like, let's enjoy dinner now. Right. It's just like so masterful. And there's a difference in energy. And you can
mhm.
validate if what I'm saying in like, I need to do this like it's a diet, like it like that energy around like I have to do this like a diet, like it's like this scare. It feels so bad. Like it feels just like it's like not rich, it's not vibrant, it's not happy, it's not enjoyable. It's just like this like man, like it's like you're just oh, right? And it's just to me that energy that would be around that would be what would cause the binges later because I felt so the satisfaction piece is not added in at all. The knowing that food is also an enjoyable experience and like you can have what you want to have, like it's an empowered choice to make. And then when I got over into that plane, it's like every meal, it's like I'm eating for satisfaction, I'm eating for comfort, but I'm also like not wanting to eat till I'm too full. I had to make those mistakes and get way too full
Exactly.
for me to realize like I don't want to feel this way. Like that doesn't help at all. So then like the next day is different. The next day is different. And like doing it over time, which is why the permanent weight loss journey is like it takes a while, right? Different amounts of time for everyone. But then once you're solid on like what works for me, then you have that for the rest of your life. And it's like, I'll never do another diet again. Like we're really that last stop for people. And are you at that space? Like, do you feel like you wouldn't go back to a diet again?
No, I mean, yeah, that's definitely not something that I want to do anymore. I feel like I'm on a good path to kind of finding that balance for myself. Um,
Right. And so just to go back a second, so the 20 pounds is from you just doing that.
yeah, so I really haven't implemented. Since I got back from school last year, I really haven't been in the mindset to exercise just because I was an athlete for 4 years and there's kind of just some bad
Mhm.
energy still associated with it because I never did it because I wanted to. It was always something I was forced to do. So I still haven't really found my way back to things that I like to do for exercise yet. So that's still obviously something that I'm working on. But um, in terms of food, the past, I would say like 4 weeks or so, um, generally I like phrase it as keto just because that's easier for my parents to understand about
Mhm.
what I'm trying to eat and not eat. But obviously, it's very tailored to what I like to eat and what I don't like to eat. And like I said, I'm still trying to find that balance. But yeah, it's just been eating things that make me feel good, not falling off the rails per se. Like when I eat something that I know is not great for me, or like even on the other hand, like choosing to eat something that I know is not going to make me feel great, but like it's part of the social aspect. Like, for example, we went for my dad's birthday out to like a hibachi place. And I had been eating, pretty unprocessed foods for the past couple of weeks. So my body was used to that. And then with the hibachi. You know, it's got a lot of butter and a lot of stuff that my body just wasn't used to. Um, I knew I really enjoyed the food, and I was out with my family, and like my niece was there. And, you know, she's 2 years old. She got to see the hibachi. It was just like a great time with my family.
Aw,
And
mhm.
I made the decision to be like, this is technically off of the diet, but I want to enjoy this meal. I'm going to eat this meal. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And tomorrow I'll reevaluate how I feel and go from there. And I'm not going to think anymore about it, which is a huge difference from where I was months ago when that would affect me, you know, in so many different ways.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I hear everything that you're saying. Yeah, it's like okay to have a framework. Like I know that eating a lot of vegetables and fruits and like I know what makes me feel great. So it's like I have that in the back of my mind, but when it comes to the decision making time, it's like I can make that empowered choice and then it becomes automatic, and then it's just
Hmm.
like normal and it's like then I don't even have to think about
Exactly.
it. It's just like, "Oh yeah, like going out for hibachi, great. I'm going to enjoy that fully." Like if I feel bad, I'll just like whatever, I'll be in the present moment next and then I'll just like go for a walk or something if like whatever and like
Yeah.
but it's like it's not something I have to think about anymore. It's like an unconscious thing and I can really hear that it's like way less cuz before like you were saying it would be like I'd hear about oh we're going to hibachi for that thing and I'd be thinking about it all the way leading up like what am I going to have like this is going to be bad like I'm anxious like you can't and then I couldn't enjoy the meal like I wouldn't even seen the 2-year-old getting to like have fun and enjoy right it's like
Yeah.
missing out on that and then it's like oh my god I ate too much and the next day I'm like all locked in my head about it like just
Exactly.
like a giant trap and
Hmm.
yeah to then now yeah I love that you're exercising this muscle for yourself it makes so much sense and then we notice that like when we do allow ourselves to eat for enjoyment sometimes like then the binges aren't happening and that cause
Hmm.
the and then you get to lose the
Exactly.
20 pounds because it's like well the binging isn't happening and it's just
Mhm.
becoming my and it's always a work in progress right like our health is an ongoing journey for the rest of our lives and so making little tweaks and every season of life calls for something different like you're in nursing school you have a different schedule now different stress but the other thing is like and that's just what I was going to kind of close us out with is like the holistic aspect of this whole journey right because it wasn't just the hypnosis it wasn't just the system of support it wasn't just the community like you also took action like you started nursing school, you broke up with relationships, like you did get that system of support, like you did start to become more aware of your body and like do all the mental and emotional work, right? It's just like, it's this full package, right? Like for myself, it was like I was traveling around the world and then I stopped believing that like maybe I wasn't a food addict, but then my binges started because I wasn't controlling as much anymore. But then I was isolated because I was alone and then COVID happened. So I moved back home and then had more of
Mhm.
that like safety and support of the family and like hired my own coaches and right like all this kind of stuff that like leads to the weight loss because we're taking a holistically like very good care of ourselves all the way around so and it's one empowered decision at a time taking that action showing up every day being nice to yourself honoring where you're at. Katie, I'm so happy for you. You look great. You're like
Yeah.
radiant, like
Thank
not
you.
only the weight loss, but just like I'm so delighted to find you in this space. And thank you so much for doing this episode with us. And so, for those people who are listening and maybe they're in a space like you were at, even like suicidal thoughts, like I hear that a lot, and the depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff, relationships not working, like what would you say to them or what do you want to leave people with today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where you have to kind of trust your gut, trust your intuition. And I was talking to Leslie before the podcast just about not having expectations for the journey that you're going to go on and the growth that you're going to make. Um, because, you know, listening to a lot of the people that had previously done the program before I started, you know, they had a lot of really big transformations in terms of they stopped craving the foods that they, you know, wanted to eat all the time and things like that. And when I first started, I was like, oh, like that's gonna be me. And then as I started to like go through my journey, I realized that my transformations were looking different than other people's, but it didn't mean that it was any less. Mine were just more about other things. And then the food stuff kind of followed. Um, I had to realize I had to get my emotions in line and realize that I had to work on myself and do other things before I could do the food thing. And I'm still working on the food thing. Like that's gonna be something that's gonna take a while for me. But you might be someone that can accomplish it in 8 weeks. Like it's gonna be different for everyone. You just have to do your best to go in with an open mind and know that whatever happens, you're bettering yourself, even if it's not, 5 huge steps forward. Like you're better off than you when you started. So that's all
Mhm.
that matters.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for saying that. Yep, I've done episodes in the past before too of, I always go into a coaching container with a goal, but the reason why I'm always very successful at my coaching program is because I let go of expectations, and as soon as I make that decision, I'm along for the ride.
Hmm.
Right? And it's like, wow, unexpected things happen. Like I got different things from this, and it's like I have that faith that the universe is always giving me exactly what I need, exactly when I need it, honoring my own path, staying in my own lane, and trusting that, like, by your following that intuition and making that decision, that that is leading you to the next best place for you to be able to go. So,
Hmm.
thank you, thank you, thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who are ready to follow that, if you feel that in your guts and you want to just find out more information, you can reach out to us, send me a Facebook message, and we'll get you on a call just like Katie had and see how we might be able to help you out. Katie, thank you so much. Thanks everyone
Yeah,
for
of
watching.
course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day. I'll see you later.
See ya.